In just 1 month, this content creator gained a total of 2 million subscribers. This led to them not only being able to do collaborations with some of YouTube's biggest names, but also even pursue making music catching the attention of some of the world's most known artists.
Bro,
It'll be alright, it'll be fun.
You'll be
right
fine,
now.
Corbs.
It's all good, bro. Just choke me like you hate me.
not Logic reciting my lyrics.
Corb's husband did this by taking over YouTube, making videos playing Among Us with other content creators. On the surface, many people had assumed his success to be due to how many big creators he's collaborated with, one specifically being PewDiePie. However, as Corb's husband surpassed all the creators he's collaborated with, including PewDiePie in viewership, everyone became under the impression that his voice was the main reason as to why everybody watches him. But what if I told you I found the true reason his content performs so well? You see, Corb's videos follow only 5 simple tactics to create the perfect formula. But before we delve too deep into his gaming content, I think it's important to take a look at his older videos as well. Before making gaming content with his friends, Corb's husband made creepypasta videos, and while these videos didn't perform as well as a lot of his most recent videos, this was more of a learning experience for Corb's, because even then, these videos followed a specific formula as well. Retention on YouTube is very important, and a lot of people struggle with figuring out how to keep people watching their content. But with Corb's early content, it's evident that he zeroed in on exactly how to do that, by following step 1. Opening people to speculate. Horror content and horror as a genre is very driven by the fact that people want to be scared. Nobody walks into a horror film hoping to laugh and giggle throughout the entire movie, or at least I hope not. People expect to feel fearful by the end of it. While you might have a cheesy story, there's nothing better to accelerate that fear than hinting that the story is based on true events. The suggestion of truth allows the audience to immerse themselves deeper if they think that what's happening on screen could possibly happen to them as well. Corbs did this a lot with these videos, emphasizing true story in the titles and as well in the opening of almost every video he made. To further this speculation, Corbs would make a lot of videos based on submissions from his own audience, where a random viewer would email Corbs an alleged true story that happened to them. This only furthered the questionable validity of each story.
If you have a good story that you think could be usable on my channel, please email your story to corpsehstories@gmail.com. with the subject of the email being what kind of story it is, and also include somewhere in the email what alias you'd like to be credited under. I only want true stories and I do vet them, so please don't send anything otherwise, it really just wastes my time.
Which ends up causing you to listen to his narrations because it only makes you want to figure out if the story sounds plausible enough that it could have really happened. Additionally, viewer submissions drove even more people to want to come back and see if their story was submitted as well. For comparison, you can look at someone like Mr. Creepypasta, someone with well over 1 million subscribers who makes pretty similar content, and to clarify, I am not saying their videos are bad at all, but if you look at their viewership, there's a lot of saturation between the two. Corbs nudges his audience to speculate about the validity of the story by consistently reminding his viewers that what's being told is based on real events. Mr. Creepypasta, however, more so relies on hoping that his audience gets hooked on something they already know isn't real, which for many people may feel a bit more hard to get into, considering you'd get more of a shock or succumb to more fear from something that feels a bit more unknown. Now on to step 2, with what I like to call visualization over interpretation. When watching these videos, you can very much tell that the visuals aren't anything over the top. It feels like a slideshow at most. But with the videos as well, each image being shown corresponds with the location Corbs is mentioning in the story. I'm sure whenever you read a book, you like to create an image of the scenery and characters being presented to you. But this only tends to work out well when the author is good at providing a description of these things. With Corbs taking submissions from members of his audience, he's not entirely getting world-class storytelling, so by visually displaying the locations, he's providing less work to the viewer by making them interpret less of whatever it is he's trying to talk about. We can even look back at Mr. Creepypasta's channel again. As before, you'll find with a lot of their lower performing videos, the visuals don't match the locations mentioned, or it's the same image playing throughout the entire video. And the stories being told, well, let's just say Redditors aren't world-class writers either, at least in the sense when it comes to describing scenery. Besides these videos doing recent for their time, Corpse didn't stick with this genre of content, which I find to be really interesting, as there's always been this notion among content creators that if you gain a decently large following based off of one format of content, that you shouldn't switch formats and completely change the content people originally subscribed to you for in the first place. This is due to a large history of people becoming popular, then having their careers completely ruined due to their existing fan base feeling put off from their newer content. But I believe this to be purely placebo, because why is it that Corpse Husband was able to do a complete 180 with his content and not only keep his previous audience, but also nearly triple it in only a matter of 1 month? And I mean, Corpse isn't even the only case of this. Look at people like Max Mofo and Anything for Views, two people who've made a variety of content over the years, both with their friends and their own channels, at one point even being the staple icons of YouTube for years. And now they themselves run a podcast with a respectable viewer base. So how is Corpse Husband able to do a complete 180 with his content just like them? This is actually because Corpse took what he learned from his previous content and was able to add 3 new simple tactics to his newer brand of videos. Let's look at step 1. I'll call this weird but balanced. Looking at his titles, you can see some clever things going on. Let's look at this one in particular. There's a healthy balance between 2 things here. One being absurdity, which is taking something and making it extremely unreasonable or irrational, and 2 being a promise of story, which is essentially a way to tell the viewers that by watching this video all the way through, they'll be getting the same experience of any story being told to them. This can be done in numerous ways, with a title, thumbnail, audibly at the start of a video, or even with the visuals in the first few seconds. It's also important to note that I emphasize the word promise here because yeah, you could just come up with something absurd and say it'll be in the video, but you don't want to do clickbait and add an absurd story just for the sake of it. You need to actually execute on what you're promising, because I mean, BuzzFeed is dead for a reason. With a lot of content nowadays, people are battling against millions of videos, and the most important thing you need to do is catch the eyes of viewers scrolling by. Let's say your video gets matched up with the MrBeast video, which is a lot more realistic than you might think. How do you get someone to notice your video first, make them choose your video over his, or even have them remember your video after watching a MrBeast video? You need to have that same balance of absurdity and story, but titles and the concepts you come up with are only half the battle. You need to be able to deliver on that promise, and even Corpse knows this. That's why in the first few seconds of the video, he says this.
Hi, if you're new to this and you don't know what Among Us is, it's a game similar to Mafia or Werewolf. We have a group of crewmates on a ship who are trying to do tasks so that we can fix the ship, winning the game. However, there are 2 imposters on the ship who are slowly killing people off. The crewmates don't know who the imposters are, and it's their job to figure it out by talking during discussion time, which can only happen if a body is found or an emergency meeting is called. Otherwise, our mics are muted the entire time. In this video, I will be playing against some of the smartest known players in the game, and Michael Reeves, who's not only precious, but also very, very new at the game.
How do you open doors?
Oh, and if you want more of this, I made a gaming channel, which I'll leave in the description. That being said, enjoy watching my new friendships being ruined.
Did you notice it? Within under a minute, you are instantly presented with this absurd story mixed in with clever details about potential drama that he promises will occur in the video. It's important to note though, coming up with any absurd story and introducing random drama doesn't always work. He's clever about these concepts and uses them tactically throughout the video. Let's look closely at how he introduces the story.
In this video, I will be playing against some of the smartest known players in the game, and Michael Reeves, who's not only precious, but also very, very new at the game.
How do you open doors?
Oh, and if you want more of this, I made a gaming channel, which I'll leave in the description. That being said, enjoy watching my new friendships being ruined.
It's very easy to think of this as just a quick introduction into the game, but when he segues into introducing everyone, he highlights that they are the smartest players in the game. This sets the story up as an uphill battle for him, essentially creating an underdog story. But that's not the only thing that's happening here. This leads us on to the next step, clever dramatization.
That being said, enjoy watching my new friendships being ruined.
There's a few things to take away from this one sentence alone. Not only does it create a promise of conflict, but there's two layers to it. It's not a one-dimensional situation, as he's adding the twist of his friendships being new. Because of this emphasis on new friendships, he's doubling down on that absurdity and makes you even question why'd he put himself in this position. Why would someone want to make new friends only to lose them due to a silly little video game? Of course, he didn't really lose any friends, but that's the power of dramatizing your video with the circumstances you're given. But what about the rest of the video? Let's look at the final step that really keeps the retention rates to skyrocket. We'll call this step letting the nuances develop. Like many people who've made Among Us videos, you may notice a pattern of them highlighting reactions given throughout their videos. This is because a lot of gaming content tends to be the most effective when powerful reactions are shown. A lot of people know this already, but where they fail is figuring out how to make those reactions seem more authentic. Let's take a step back and look at Markiplier, for example, a content creator with over 34 million subscribers known for their gaming content, specifically their videos on a game called Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, the details of this game aren't entirely necessary. All you need to know is that it's a horror game where you sit in a security room throughout the night trying to survive. Anyone can record themselves doing this, but Markiplier in particular caught the eyes of many through his reactions. I mean, hell, he got 38 million views by compiling all his reactions together and putting them into one single video. How Mark separates himself from the rest, though, is that he's able to act as if he's part of the game, and treats his reactions not as if he's just reacting to the jump scares that pop on the screen, but also interacts with everything that's going on. It's as if he's talking to the characters in the game, which at times can seem a bit exaggerated, but nonetheless not only shows viewers that he's immersed with the gameplay, but even at times can make you feel immersed as well.
Ah! Oh no! Oh no! No, 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 no! Oh no, 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 no! Hi! Oh god damn it! How are you doing? Did I make it?
So let's go back to Corpse Husband. In his content, his friends are the only thing that he can really only interact with, but he treats them as if they were characters in the game, and all the situations with them throughout. You can tell by watching his videos that he does feel immersed in the game due to this, making his reactions feel more authentic.
That I'm not the one.
How does Corpse win every imposter round? He hasn't lost a single one.
What? He's been imposter
He's been
every
imposter every round and won every single time.
This is a situation from me last week.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Exactly what I did.
So just like Markiplier, the key takeaway here is that he lets the nuances of the game develop the interactions between everyone and what's happening in the game. Letting the game help develop the interactions keeps the immersion for not only the people involved, but everyone watching. It keeps everything not only consistent, but allows more realistic conflict to occur, adding to an already existing story. Content creation, all in all, is a very fun and freeing way to express yourself creatively. It comes with its challenges, but overall, it's not without its rewards. Corpse was very intelligent with how he approached his content, intentional or not, and while almost everyone believed that his voice was the factor to his growth, it's just not true. It may have played a role into why people were intrigued with his content, but credit needs to be given when credit is due. He made very good content that everyone loved to watch. It wasn't his voice. Sure, it was unique, but with content in general, it's important to get the concrete stuff first. Figure out how X, Y, and Z works, then find what makes you unique from the rest. I believe overall he created videos as an outlet for creative purposes and to have fun with friends he made on the platform. But as he grew in size with more eyes watching him, he started to grow anxious. A huge thing when it came to Corpse was that he was this faceless YouTuber who didn't want his private life to interject with his public persona, which is honestly understandable. But this ended up causing speculation of who he really was, which sadly led to people leaking his face to the public and even caused some other unsavory things to happen. This sadly resulted with him leaving the platform altogether, which is why his last video is almost 2 years old. He built an empire on YouTube, which allowed him to expand his creative outlets further than anyone could. People to this day even still comment on his videos wishing he'd come back and make content again. This just shows the power and influence he left behind, and there's no doubt in my mind if he ever did decide to come back, he'd take the internet by storm. But until then, I'll remember him for his genius, not his voice.